Okay, so just like a lot of you guys, I've been holding on to the stock Hyliion Holdings, and I'm pretty comfortable at this point with believing that this is going to be a long-term hold for the next 5 to 10 years. But this video actually made me a lot more excited than I already am. What is up, guys? My name is Darren Jackson. Welcome back to yet another video. I appreciate you guys stopping by, and obviously it's fair to say that the importance of a company having a resume or a list of experiences that their products have gone through is really important for us as investors when it comes to investing into them for the long term, especially when it comes to investing in SPACs. Now, don't worry, if you don't know what a SPAC is, it stands for a Special Purpose Acquisition Company. And these are just regular companies that enter the stock market via an IPO, like most companies, but their primary purpose is to reverse merge with another company that may fall in lines with a similar type of goal that that company has, such as they're looking for a technology-based company, or just maybe a company in general that they believe in, no matter what sector it is. And the important thing about those companies is that you're investing into them more than likely on the ground floor. Otherwise, if it's a pretty well-known company, they may be able to afford the process of getting into an IPO. Otherwise, they can go the cheaper and quicker route and go through a reverse merger with the SPAC. Now, speaking of SPACs, around the same time last year, I was investing into two of them that are both pretty well in the same sector within the same subsector, if you will. The first one was called VectorIQ, and VectorIQ ended up merging with a company called Nikola. And Nikola Motors at the time was a really exciting Class 8 electric vehicle company. I believe actually ran on fuel cell, which didn't quite have the infrastructure that people were really wanting, but people were really excited about it. It looked just as nice as Tesla. It even shared the name of the guy whose name was Nikola Tesla. So there was a lot of comparisons with it, and there was a lot of hype. But then it all came crashing down because of essentially lack of experience. Now, obviously, it's cool to be able to get into a company that's fairly risky because the rewards could outweigh those significantly. But that was a pure example of doing research and making sure that the company you're investing into long-term, especially if it's a SPAC, has a lot of experience. And over the past year, it seems like the price has stabilized. It looks like they're doing some good things, so best of luck to them. The other company that I invested into was a SPAC called Tortoise Acquisition. As many of you know, Tortoise Acquisition eventually reverse merged with a company called Hyliion and turned into Hyliion Holdings. And ever since they merged and Hyliion entered the stock market, I've been really excited to hold on to this company for the long term, not only because of what they do, but because of the products that they actually have, the experience and the miles that those products have actually gone through. But after watching this video, it's just made me even more optimistic about what's to come with this company for the next 3 to 5 to 10 years. And it's also made me reflect on some of the things that they said earlier this year about last year, what their anticipations are for this year and what they've done so far. So with this video, we're going to talk about the Q4 results of 2020, some of the highlighted things I feel like support what they're doing now. We're going to talk about that video and their partnership with Demar Logistics, something I mentioned before, and just why I'm optimistic overall. So let's not waste any time. Let's get started. Recap Q4 2020. Now, I'm not really going to go into the financial aspects of it because, for one, the article I read didn't have much, and two, that's not the full point of this video, but I do remember them saying that they would hit about $1 million revenue last year, which I believe they did, and that the money would start flowing in a lot more this year. And a few reasons include the fact that they were going to be unveiling their next generation hybrid system and the next generation battery system, which the battery is supposed to be really significant as far as being faster charging and having a higher power output. So basically a battery that doesn't take long to charge and can provide the most effective power output for your vehicle for the long term. So that stuff is pretty cool in general, and they've been able to do that so far up until this point, to the extent that they've been able to attract companies and make them interested into adding to their fleet electric vehicles or converting their fleet into partially electric vehicles. And that was their goal as well on their 2020 Q4 results, to collab with a company to change their industrial fleet. And that's where we come into play with Demar Logistics. So I made a video in July about Hyliion Holdings and what they've been doing for the past 6 months, because I hadn't made a video on them in a while. And one of the things that I covered was their announced partnership with Demar Logistics in May 20th. Now, Demar Logistics is a sand fracking logistics company. They basically transport sand used for fracking to oil and gas preserves and other places that need to use it to break down sediments to be able to drill oil from the ground. And when that announcement was made, Demar Logistics and Hyliion Holdings made a partnership that Hyliion would be able to convert Demar's fleet of 100 Class 8 vehicles into these hybrid electric vehicles. And remember, that's one of two ways that Hyliion can go about electrifying a fleet of vehicles. The hybrid systems are these components that can be added onto vehicles. It includes the heads-up display, the battery, the rear axles, etc., etc. And they can use that to turn that diesel-powered Class 8 vehicle into a hybrid Class 8 electric vehicle. But on August 2nd, that partnership expanded significantly. So seemingly there was a lot of optimism about the products that Hyliion had in their partnership with Demar Logistics, to the point that they expanded their partnership. So not only did they agree to have 100 vehicles within their fleet to be electrified, but they also are adding 300 ERXs to their fleet. Now, their Hypertruck ERX is a really cool vehicle. Aesthetically, it looks pretty nice and it's fully electric. But the one thing that I really like about it, that I'm not sure if any other Class 8 vehicle company does, and again, I could be really naive, so let me know in the comments below if I'm missing another company. But the one thing they do is run their vehicles on a carbon net negative emissions. Now, we've heard of carbon net zero, which is basically not emitting any carbon into the atmosphere, but net carbon negative is pretty much another step into net carbon zero. So not only are you not emitting CO2 into the atmosphere, but you're actually taking CO2 from the atmosphere and storing it into somewhere with some type of bio process. But what the ERX does is that it takes that CO2 from the atmosphere and it stores it into a tank on the actual vehicle and runs it through a generator, which converts it into electricity to power the motor, which powers the batteries, and eventually powers the rear axle braking system in the back. So not only is it actually taking away CO2 from the planet, which is really beneficial on a greenhouse effect or reducing that type of situation, but it's also using that to fuel the vehicle itself. A really 2-for-1 hit, which I think obviously attracted a company like Demar Logistics. And you can tell that from watching that video about the partnership that they have. And on top of that, just some small things like the customer service type aspect, making sure they teach the employees of Demar how to go about installing the components and how the ERX works and all that good stuff. I'll leave a link to the video in the comments below, so I would really recommend you guys check that out if you're really interested in Demar or you're investing in Hyliion in general. Now, this leads me into why I'm even more optimistic about investing into a company like Hyliion and investing more and investing into it for the long term. For starters, it's pretty simple: their experience and their partnerships. And that's really easy to say, especially when you invested into them around the same time as you invested into Nikola, like I did. Now, really not trying to throw shade on Nikola currently, because what they're going through now and how they're growing now is obviously a whole lot different from what they were doing at the beginning. But there was one company that had a lot of hype and the output was totally different, and another company that had a decent amount of hype, but everything they said is pretty much what's happening so far. So that trust in a company, especially as a SPAC and investing into them on the ground level, even though yes, could create a lot of potential rewards in the long run, makes it more comfortable to go through that process of ups and downs. And partnerships with companies like Agility and Wegmans and Demar Logistics should make you more excited to investing into them, because it further proves your point on believing in their products, because other companies believe in them as well, and hopefully they continue to work out. But what makes me the most excited about investing into this company in the long term is probably something that a lot of us haven't really thought about, or maybe you have, and that is their ESG score. So the ESG stands for Environmental, Social, and Governance, and it's a rating that's given to a lot of stocks to help determine how that company is impacting the world on an environmental level, which basically means what its role is with nature. On a social level, how they interact with their employees, how they interact with the customers, and how they interact with the world in general. And their governance, what the pay is like, what bonuses are like, financially, what is the lifestyle of the company like? And especially in the climate that we're in today, where we have governance that is really pushing clean energy and reducing greenhouse emissions by X amount of degrees Celsius by a certain period of time. And we have a lot of companies that are pledging that they are going to reduce their carbon emissions to zero by 2025, 2030, even 2050. It's really beneficial to invest into those companies, because we all know that from an emotional standpoint, they should do a lot of good on top of what they already do. and emotional standpoint could result in a lot of profit with these companies. So this rating helps investors like us become more aware of the positive impact that a company is making into the world overall. And I couldn't actually get the ESG score from Hyliion Holdings. So if you guys are able to find that information, please screenshot it and leave it in the comments below. Hopefully that doesn't really omit my main point. This is the belief that I feel like the ESG score for this company is going to be really high, because transportation does play a big role in emitting CO2 into the atmosphere. I wouldn't say it's the biggest impact of CO2, but it's big enough, and it's something that we can actually fix over the course of time, especially now that you have car companies making their own electric vehicles, and then you have fully electric companies like Lucid and Tesla, and now we have these Class 8 vehicles which do long haul traveling from across the country. So being able to fully electrify those vehicles, or at least make them hybrid electric vehicles, is a really good start. But overall, that's just my personal opinion on Hyliion Holdings and why I'm so excited to hold on to them. And hopefully you take this information and apply it to any other company that you're investing into for the long term, especially if you invested into as a SPAC or you invested into the ground. We all want to be comfortable with what we're investing in, because the road is going to be pretty annoying on the way to it actually making a lot of profit for you. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you actually believe in Hyliion Holdings? Are you investing into them for the long term? Have they kind of given you some negative vibes? Did you guys watch the video? What do you think about the partnership? Just anything in regards to Hyliion Holdings or any long-term stock that you're investing into relative to this, definitely leave your comments below. I definitely enjoyed talking to you guys. I really appreciate you guys watching this video. Speaking of videos, make sure you watch some of these other videos, which I hope help you on your investing journey as I have in mine. I do appreciate you guys watching once again, and until next time, take care.